You are now tuned in to the Project 365 experience.
Recording right away.
All right.
Very excited and humbled to have my friend Aly Dhanani from SFU. Man, like it's been a little while, you know. I just wanted to dive right into it. How you been?
I've been good. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, so in 1 year, the last time we saw each other was a year ago. In one
hmm
year, so much has changed for you. Talk to us about your new position now with SFU.
Yeah, so I started off with SFU almost 3 years ago now as a student
Mhm.
manager, team manager, and I'm still a student there. But over the course of my time at SFU, I've gotten more involved with the basketball program from a coaching and analytics standpoint, and now my official title is now with like analytics and advanced statistics at SFU. So that's like a extremely exciting development, and yeah. So basically, like my role is just contributing to like our scouting and planning in terms of like adding analytics and stats to what we do in terms of getting ready for games, and our own evaluation of our own players. So yeah.
So tell me about how did becoming a manager how did you so take me back. How did you become a manager first? How did
Mhm.
that help you to be ready for the now your new position?
Right. So the way I became like a manager in the first place is it goes way back. So back in high school, I was playing high school basketball, and um what happened was is right before the tryouts for the junior varsity team, I got injured, and I came back just in time for the tryouts, but I didn't make the team, and I was devastated. Like I remember
Mhm,
with tryouts, and they called everyone into the coach's office, like one by one to tell them if they made the team or not. And I was super
yeah.
close to everyone on the team because I played the year before with everyone, so we all knew each other
Mhm,
really well. And I had been working really hard to like just to get better. I had a good relationship with the senior team coach and all the coaches, and I thought I was going to make it. And they told me I didn't make it. And I just remember I came out of the coach's office. Everyone's just like wanting to know if I made it or not. I just break down crying in front of everybody. It was like just like one of like the most disappointing moments of my life. I was so devastated. They always gave me a big hug, but I was just like in tears, just crying because I wanted to be on the team so bad. And how it actually started is everyone on the team, they wanted me to be involved. So they all, without me like even knowing, they all went to the coach and they're like, "Oh, we want Ali to be involved in the team. We want him to be on the team even though he didn't make it." And I didn't know about any of this. And the coach was like, "Oh, well, he can be a manager. Like, how about that?" So then he came up to me and he asked me if I wanted to do that, and I was like, "Sure, yeah, like why not?" Because I was always been interested in that sort of thing, and I got into the
mhm,
stats a lot and like taking stats during games and doing analysis of our players, and then I got like pretty decent at it, and then he referred me to Coach Hansen, the head coach at SFU, and that's how I became a manager.
mhm. So let's talk about like just the shift of mindset. So you think you're gonna play,
hmm
you go through this, you go through this low,
Yeah.
right? Because like you're like, damn, I didn't make it. What gets you to shift your mindset? Is it just other people referring to you, like kind of
Mhm.
like referring your name um to the coach? Is it just you always knew that, hey man, this is just a step that I wanted to take?
I think it was just like discovering a passion. Like I didn't have any expectations going into that year. I just kind of wanted to stay involved, be around basketball, and I started tracking stats. And I remember I was tracking like just by myself, like not on an iPad, like on pen and paper. I was tracking like points, rebounds, like offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, fouls, like every stat on paper for everyone on our team and the other team all at once. And
Hmm.
and everyone was like, "How do you do that?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm just watching the game and like taking tallies." And they would compare it to the because then we got to the like the provincials, and they actually had box scores, like
Hmm.
that were like done by computers, and mine were like just as the same, like they're accurate. So then that's when I kind of realized
Hmm.
like, oh, like I actually like with stats and stuff like that, like it comes to me like naturally. And like playing, I was never the greatest. I had a passion for the game, but I just like
Same here.
athletically and skill.
Same here, by the way. same,
Yes.
same here.
Yeah, that wasn't my thing, but I kind of discovered, in another avenue that I can be related to the game that I kind of had a little bit more of an aptitude for than playing the
Hmm.
actual game.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
let's shift into your passion. Let's shift into what your new role is going to entail.
Hmm.
So you're
Yeah.
director of analytics and
Advanced statistics.
advanced statistics. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're going through that. Let's
Mhm.
break down what that is. When you hear the word analytics,
Yeah.
I know a lot of basketball players are kind of like turned off by that word because it's kind of like the
Hmm.
numbers, and like I know a lot of people kind of want to lean towards, basketball should just be a feel thing. It should be a
Yeah. Yeah.
what if you were to explain the word analytics, make it less threatening to people, like
Right.
less intimidating. How do you
Yeah.
define analytics, and how
Well,
can it help basketball players?
I think when it comes to helping coaches and players, I think it's better to I think like where you people who are in analytics can add value is making it a lot of the way these players and these coaches they learn the best and can get the most value out of analytics is like visually putting that like as someone who understands analytics being able to put it into a visual perspective that a coach and player can understand. So shot charts, because for example when you're taking an eye test, it's really easy. You can tell a player is good, he has talent, but he could be like 9 for 30, right? And you don't really
Hmm.
necessarily see that because you're seeing him making all the shots and you're seeing the talent that he has, even creating shots for himself. Even if because like, there's a lot of times where you're watching someone in a game and even if they miss a shot, you can still be impressed by the ways they got to getting that shot off, right?
Hmm.
Like you can be impressed with their handle, with their athleticism. Like they can miss a dunk and you can still be impressed with them missing a dunk just because the athleticism you showed. But the analytics is kind of just more of a it's more of a numbers way of looking at it, but that's helpful because sometimes you don't understand, you don't realize that efficiency is a huge part of basketball, right? The best teams are
Hmm.
always efficient in on offense and defense. And if you look at shot charts, and I really like shot charts, but there's other graphs that kind of show efficiency. And I
Hmm.
think that's one of the main ways is it helps basketball players and coaches understand how to get the most value in terms of the
Right.
shots that they're taking and the way they're playing the game.
Right. So when you're talking about the best teams are usually the most efficient.
Yeah.
How how are teams being efficient? Like,
Hmm.
what is the approach to making every shot efficient?
Yeah, well, you can look at a really good example. Like this is like an extreme example, but it would be like the Harden
Mhm.
Houston Rockets, right? That was a really good team. Obviously, they didn't make it to the finals just because they had a all-time team in their way. But that team was they had so statistically, I'm sure this is a well-known discussion in basketball at this point. But the highest value shot, like the highest points per shot, in basketball is in the restricted area at the rim. And
The rim.
the second besides anything around at the basket would be a corner three, and then from there on it's anything near the rim or from the 3 point line.
Mhm.
And the Rockets, they're obviously they didn't end up winning, but they are really good teams and what they did, and the Warriors did this as well. They had more mid range to their game, but both of these really good teams and really any good team now in the NBA. College is a bit different, but in the NBA, it's all from the highest volume comes from the 3 point line at the rim, right? They cut out the mid range. Like obviously in the playoffs, mid range actually becomes more important because the defense is so much more physical.
Mhm.
And when the intensity is turned up in clutch moments, then you need shot creators who can get their shot off in the mid range. But for the most part, on a large sample size, throughout the course of the regular season and throughout a large number of games, the teams that are taking the highest value shots from the 3 point line at the rim, and they're cutting out most of the mid range.
Mhm.
Those are the teams that are going to be the best offensively because they're getting the most bang for their buck, right? Because they're taking the statistically most efficient shots, and you can
Mhm.
see there's so many different shot charts you can see over the course of time where 10 years ago they're taking a
Yeah.
lot more mid ranges, and now the mid range is almost extinct. But
Right.
like I said, it's still there's still a place for it, but it's a lot different.
Yeah. Like I'm just I'm just also trying to help coaches kind of understand. Um, obviously there's the efficiency, right? You're like what
Hmm.
kind of shots we're taking, but like what else goes into it? Because the way that I kind of look at it, and you're the expert. You got the title, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah.
think like I think what a lot of coaches have to understand is that every possession matters, and how do we maximize possessions?
Hmm.
How do we maximize like our efficiency on every possession? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, when you lose by a buzzer beater, everything that you did until that moment led to you losing by a buzzer beater.
Hmm. Yeah.
So were there certain possessions where you could have done certain things differently and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So are there other factors besides the kind of shot that go into making a specific shot efficient?
Yeah. I mean, that's a definitely, there's definitely a lot of factors that go
Give me a
into.
couple. Give me a couple when you're going through the numbers and all that stuff. Like, give
Yeah.
me a
Yeah.
couple that you're kind
Yeah.
of thinking.
Well, from a coaching standpoint, a big thing is the action that you're running, right? Like the type of offense that you're running that leads to
Mm-hmm.
getting those shots off. So what we do at SFU is we look at all the actions that we run throughout the course of the game, and then we
Mm-hmm.
look at the amount of points that we generated from each action. So then we look at the points per possession for each action
Mm-hmm.
that we've
Mm-hmm.
done. So it's like you can see like against certain defenses, against certain teams, certain actions work better than other actions, right? Just because of the way
Yeah.
they're playing you, if they're playing zone or they're playing man,
Yeah.
if they're going under screens, going over screens, just things like that. Like so many little details, and the higher levels you get, the more detailed it gets in terms of the things that lead to generating a shot. Like it's also like knowing your personnel, right? Because you run different things for depending on what type of players you have on your team. If
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of shooters, if you have
Mm-hmm.
guys who are just better around the rim, so
Yeah.
a lot goes into it for sure. But I mean, coaches play a huge part in being able to give their players the opportunities to get to be able to get good looks off from those spots, and being able to be in a spaced offense
Mm-hmm.
that's run well. Like another thing that we really emphasize at SFU is spacing, right? We want our guys even like further from beyond the 3-point line
Right.
to open up the floor so that guys
Right.
can get good shots.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's so and I'm assuming like also the people that take the certain shots, that kind of matters
Mhm.
too.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, that's the biggest part of it. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because if
Yeah.
I just say corner three, like, player B taking corner three is not might not be the same efficiency as player A.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm, okay. So there's so many different directions that we could go with this, like, and I find
Yeah.
this very interesting. So um let me ask you this, like when it comes to
Hmm.
certain actions or concept or whatnot, through your hours that you put in and diving into the film and the
Yeah.
scouts and all that kind of stuff, what are components of actions or concepts
Yeah.
that lead to having higher percentage shots?
Right. So I'm gonna answer this like on a very basic level because this is
Mm-hmm.
like a fundamental concept that I've really learned, and that's paint touches. You got to get paint touches on your offensive possessions. That's like the
Mm,
probably like the biggest indicator of if you're getting like a high quality offensive
yeah.
possession. This is something I learned from the master Coach Adil. Shout out
Yeah,
Coach
yeah.
Adil. He's a
Shout
big
out
time
Coach
analytics
Adil.
guy. Yeah, he taught me a
Shout out
lot.
Coach Adil.
And
Yeah.
he's big on paint touches, and for good reason because it just collapses the defense. It allows you to once the defense is collapsed, then they're the ones who are recovering. And just on a very basic level of basketball, if you're able to penetrate, get into the paint, and beat your man, that's like like all the best offenses. Like even a team with great shooters like the Warriors, those shooters got to get open because they got to have someone who's getting downhill, and that can be achieved different ways. Like guys can take it downhill, like off a screen. It can be off of cuts, but the ball just has to get in the paint. Like we had, one of the things I did last year was I would count paint touches, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way like a paint touch is whenever if it's dribbled into the paint or if it's caught in the paint, but you got to have 2 feet in the paint. And the data, it's like overwhelming in terms of whenever you get a paint touch, your offense is going to be a lot more successful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And holy man, this is this is some good stuff. Talk to me about one that I kind of like really believe in, I
Mhm.
guess, is like ball reversals. I think
Which?
when the
Oh, ball reversals. Yeah,
ball
yeah,
reversals, yeah,
yeah,
and Is there some kind of stat that says that when the ball moves from one side to the other or that kind of stuff, that the numbers will go up? Because it seems that the teams that don't let the ball stick and that attack the defense and make it
Mhm.
shift from side to side seem to increase their percentage at scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually tracked that before personally, and I haven't really, but that would make a lot of sense because I know every coach I played for, once again, they're very the ball reversals are great because it keeps the ball moving, keeps the defense recovering, and ball movement's like a huge component of a good offense. So that would definitely make sense. I'm sure if someone or even myself was to take a look at that, that would that would be correct. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you
Yeah.
another one. In terms of analytics, right?
Yeah.
How how did your staff, based on what you've noticed, what are some
Mhm.
efficient ways that you've used and that you guys have used analytics to show to your team or teach your team? What are some creative
Mm.
ways that you guys have been using?
Yeah. Okay. So let me,
Yep.
I mean, we do have a lot of different things.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'll say one thing that was developed before I came to SFU was basically we looked at the top three teams in our conference, and we looked at a number of their different offensive and defensive stats. I'll give you two of them. This is not like big time analytics. So we looked at like their field goal percentages. We looked at their defensive field goal percentages, and we also looked at have you heard of like kills before?
Kills 3 stops in
Just
a
three
row.
three steps in a row. Just really simple, but we look at how many
Yeah.
kills they get per game, how many heats, so it's the opposite of kills, scores like at least 1 point 3 times in a row. And then we kind of use those as benchmarks for our performance because we saw I think we have like about 7 of these benchmarks in total, and I just gave you 4 of them. It was the defensive field goal percentage, offensive field goal percentage, and then heats and kills. And then the other 3, they're not coming to me right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But
but
before you
but
continue,
those, so
yeah,
yeah,
give me 2 seconds. Before you continue, just for the
yeah.
listeners. So the reason why kills is important, or why it's like that big of a value, is because usually what they say is that if you get about on average, if you get close to 7 kills in a game, usually you give yourself a really good chance at winning the game. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking at the amount that historically the top performing teams in our conference have gotten in these categories, and we're trying to match up to that every game. So after every game, we go over with the guys, and we just look after every single game. We're breaking it down with the guys so they can see, because sometimes they don't necessarily agree, right? Like after the game, they're upset or they feel like they're doing this right, but then we look at the numbers
Hmm.
and we're like, oh, like they shot 50% against you guys. You can't argue with that, right? If they shot 50%, they shot 50%. That's not good defense, right? So, and then just
Hmm.
looking at, oh, like, oh, we got 7 kills last game, and that's like terrific, right? So they get excited when they get a lot of kills, and we make sure to everyone's kind of like during the game they're locked in, they're counting their head, how many stops in a row we have, and it's a good way to keep the guys engaged. It's a really simple but effective way to measure our performance as well.
When you're going into scouting, how do you
Hmm.
use analytics when preparing a scout of another team?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's something that I'm still continuing to explore the best way to effectively do that. But I think a big part is, so when you're watching film on someone, especially with really good players who have their ball in their hands a lot, you're looking at, when he goes left, when he goes right, uh, which way is he more effective? Like which hand should he force him to, right? And if you look at shot charts, that's a really helpful way for guys to see where on the court he's more efficient from and where on the court he's least efficient from, right? So you're kind of looking at where you want to funnel him on the court. So I think that's something that I want to kind of explore, is just like, it's really simple, but just showing every guy's shot short and showing where they're the least efficient on the court, because that's where you want them taking shots. But there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. Like, on Synergy, there's a lot of different points per possession. You can see if they're more effective as a catch and shooter or off the dribble shooter. You can see if they're better at the rim or versus shooting, or if they're like their pull up points per possession. But a lot of it I noticed to be, it kind of just affirms what you're seeing confirms with what you're seeing with your eyes.
Mhm.
Like you watch a lot of film, you're going to be able to pick up a lot of the same things, but the numbers is kind of just backing what you see up. and it's a good way to just kind of confirm and validate what you're telling the team.
So I want to steal a little
Yeah.
bit of knowledge from you. You're going into a new role this year, and
Mhm.
I'm guessing scouts is going to be like you're going to be the main person in charge of like most
Uh,
of the
I
scouts.
would I would say like main person, but I'll definitely play a role in it for sure. Like with assistant
Okay,
coaches will all be involved in. Yeah.
okay, okay. So let's say you're scouting against number one team. They have a great point guard
Hmm.
and a great big,
Yeah.
right? How are you using the analytics to put it in the scouting report and then present it to your players?
Right. So I think, I mean, they go a lot of different ways because there's so many different, and this team, you have like just the major things that. So if they have like a really low defensive rebounding percentage, and we're a good
Mhm.
offensive rebounding team, we can point out we can point that out and be like, look, these guys are not good at getting their own rebounds. We got to crash the glass. Like that's the way that we can create an advantage for
Gotcha.
ourselves.
Yep.
Or we look at like they have a high turnover percentage, and we say, like, we got to pressure these guys because they're not good with the ball. They're not good with taking care of the ball. So just look at little things like that, advantages you can exploit, because those are not necessarily, those are the things where analytics brings a lot of value, because you have to watch a lot to kind of pick that up. And sometimes, like, even with like assist percentage, right, it's really hard to keep track in your
Hmm.
head of the assist level of a team sometimes.
Sure.
But it's
Sure.
really on paper you can just see like, oh, these guys move the ball really well, or these guys don't, and kind of helps you plan.
Hmm. So, so in terms of individually, right? If let's say I'm a player, I'm playing for you, and then I have a matchup, right? How are you presenting that information? Like, is it more just team stuff, or are you more looking individually?
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we cut a little bit. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah. So then when it comes to presenting each individual, right? Are there certain
Right.
things scouting wise that you're looking for to be able to prepare me individually like okay, this is my matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's still something that, like I said, it's because you don't want to overwhelm them as well, because there's a lot that you want to write like qualitatively about their game, especially when it's early on in the season. There's not enough data to kind of uh give them an accurate, but like as the season goes on, there's more a larger sample size, so then you trust the numbers more. But yeah, it's kind of picking and choosing what you, so for example, if a guy's if he shoots way worse on pull-ups than he does on catch and shoots, you want to say close out, close, make him put the ball on the floor, stuff like that. Or if you notice on a shot chart that he shoots way worse on the left side than on the right side, you want to force him left, or vice versa. uh just like little things like that. You don't want to overwhelm and give them a bunch of numbers, but just little things where you notice that can give them just that, because it's just a game of such like little margin, right? So
Hmm.
anything that you can do to give them that little advantage. But a lot, especially in the college, in the conference that we play in, and every conference, you see guys multiple times. And most of these guys, especially in D2, there's not as much. Actually, well, I wouldn't say that anymore, but from there's a lot of guys that stick around on the same team, so you see them for years on end, and you get a really good feel for their game. And guys know who they're going up against for the most part. So
Yeah.
you're just kind of trying to do little things to supplement that.
Right. um in terms of percentage wise, I just want
Hmm.
to help people to kind of visualize certain things, right?
Hmm.
What's a good, like, just for a regular shooter,
Hmm.
what's a good kind of shot, like, in terms of percentage wise? Like, if I shoot this percentage, I'm considered to be good. If let's say it's a corner three.
From a corner three, well, a corner three is that's like the highest percentage 3-pointer, right? So if you, I mean, there's levels to it. Obviously, I think anything over 40% is
Hmm.
elite. Like that means you're at
Hmm.
like a high level at our level, and at any level, anything over 40% is like that's
Hmm.
elite. But I would say
Yeah.
anything like 36% to 40%, you're like a good shooter. Uh, and then I would say like 33 to 36, you're you're a respectable shooter, but you're not a
You're right.
you're
You're
not like a
right.
you're not a shooter. But
Yeah.
you can shoot a little bit, but you're not a shooter. And then anything after
Yeah.
that, you're kind of bordering on like
Get in the gym.
guys, yeah. There's guys, especially there's so much talent in basketball, and there's guys who shoot in the low 30s from 3 point, like DJ Wagner, right? He's the number. He's like on Kentucky. He was like the 5-star recruit. He can shoot, right? Like he can shoot, but in high school he shot like 29-30% from three.
Hmm.
So his numbers aren't good, but I think he's gonna end up being a good shooter. And there's a lot of guys
Yeah.
who their numbers are lower, but that doesn't mean they can hit 3-4 threes in a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just about in the
It's
long run playing the numbers. It'll give you an advantage.
right. It's funny.
Yeah,
It's funny you're saying that because I was
yeah,
just having the discussion with somebody today,
yeah, yeah.
and I'll paint a picture for you. I have this player that I think is really good.
Hmm.
Okay, I think he's really good. A big body, could defend, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But for his summer team, he had to play at the five,
Oh wow.
right? He had
Yeah,
to play at the five, but he's
yeah.
like 6'4", but he could
Oh
guard
wow.
like fives. He could guard
Yeah,
fives,
yeah.
right? So I was having a discussion with somebody. I was like, yo, this guy's really good. So then the person went to go check on Synergy, the numbers,
Hmm.
and then they were like, yo, like the numbers are actually not that good. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, numbers, okay. But
yeah.
I think what's misunderstood is yes, you have the numbers, but you still have to go watch.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
So I dived into the numbers
yeah.
and I dived into the film. And what I started noticing is this player, obviously, this player is not that good at catch and shoot threes. I'll give him that. But playing at the five, what I noticed was he was grabbing a lot of offensive rebounds,
Hmm.
putbacks, right? He was
Yeah.
setting good screen. He was playing with four downhill guards.
Hmm.
So what I started noticing was like, okay, yeah, the numbers don't look good, but he sets screens. He opens up for those downhill guards, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Offensive rebounds,
yeah,
and a lot of times, most of his shots, when do they happen? When the downhill attacking guards can't score, he's the last second resort. So all of his missed threes are like three, two, one.
yeah. So that kind of messes with the stats a little bit.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
ever find yourself in that kind of situation where you like, yo,
yeah,
like what I'm seeing, like I'm not crazy, and then you just go back
yeah.
and rewatch it?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. When I'm evaluating high school prospects, I barely look at the numbers. I'm an analytics guy. If I'm
Nice,
looking at
nice.
if I'm looking at a high school player, I like the numbers they're interesting to look at, but I don't use them uh because in high school they're
Hmm.
developing, right? And there's the range of situations is so different in terms of how you're being used and your abilities. And
Hmm.
there's just so much room for growth when you're in high school that the numbers don't really matter as much because you can go from a 20% 3 point shooter to like a 35% 3 point shooter in a year just by working on your game and getting more coordinated
Right,
and
right.
that learning curve, right? And it's not only that, but it's also like I just looked at more of the physical attributes when someone's in high school. Like you look at like their just like even if they're shooting 20% from three, how fast is their release, like if they're dipping the ball, like their footwork, their balance. You're just looking at the fundamentals. You're not really looking at the
Contested,
numbers.
contested,
Yeah,
not contested.
yeah. You're just looking at how it's going to project and how it like
Mm.
if they have room for growth just based on their fundamentals of how they play the game. But the numbers when you're in high school, because there's just so many reasons why your numbers might be one way or another, because the structure in high school is a lot more loose than it is at the next levels.
Especially in AAU. That's the one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay. So when you are looking at stats in general, right? If
Mhm.
we're looking at a team, what are some stats that as a team are determinant on whether you played a good game or not?
As a team.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that kind of ties in back to what we were talking about earlier. Each team
Mhm.
has their own benchmarks, and I think rebounding is huge. That's another one that we really look at.
I'm a
Is
big fan of
rebounding,
rebounding. Big
yeah,
fan.
rebounding plus minus, right? Like how we have a certain goal of how many more rebounds we want to get than the other team during a game. So rebounding
Mm-hmm.
is huge. Turnovers, we have to limit our turnovers. We want to have less turnovers than the other team. And free throws, we want to be able to get to the line more than the other team. Free
Mm-hmm.
throws, rebounding, and turnovers. Those are the difference between winning and losing.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
individually for players, does that remain the
Yeah.
same, or does it depend on the position, or
Yeah,
what?
I mean, yeah, it's depends on what you're looking for from them, right? Like what their role is. If someone's on the team and their role is a scorer, then you're the first thing you're gonna look at is their points. But there's some guys where you just need them to rebound the ball. You need them to facilitate, and not turn over the ball, right? So with point guards, you're always looking at their turnovers, right? Their assistant turnovers. That's the assistant turnover ratio is huge with point guards, but you might not care about that as much with a center. Where the center you're looking at is rebounds. You're looking at it, yeah. And then fouls is huge for everyone too, because that's a huge part of the game, right? So throughout the game, you're always monitoring someone's fouls. Uh, but I think, yeah, just what you're looking from a player in terms of stats, it just depends on their role.
Mm-hmm. Man, this was great. Ali, I appreciate you. I actually have one last question for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Now looking at you persevered, you went through what you went through.
Hmm.
You wanted to, you go through your playing experience, wanting to make the
Yeah,
team, not making it, looking at where you're
yeah,
at now, and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
What does the Ali of today
yeah.
say to the Ali that was trying to figure out this basketball thing back then?
I don't think I say anything. I
Just
don't
let
think I
it
say
be.
anything. I think just let it happen. I think everything, like, I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason, and I don't really want to mess with that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing. So Simon Fraser is the only
Hmm.
Canadian university that is in Canada. Is the only NCAA university that is
Yeah,
in
yeah. Only
Canada.
NCAA university
In
in
Canada,
Canada.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you guys hold a special place in my heart, and I got to root for you guys, and obviously I'm rooting for you too in this new not new situation, new position, right?
Thank
Maybe
you. Yeah.
you're probably going to keep doing the great work that you're already doing, but like I was telling you before last week, titles are big, so for somebody to trust and give you that kind of title, it means that you're doing something. I know you're humble, but
Yeah.
I gotta give you your flowers. So Ali, no, I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Looking forward again to see how good Canada's NCAA team is going to do this year.
Yeah, hopefully we have a good season. Yeah,
Mhm.
lots of excitement. But yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate you for having me on.
And where can people find you? I almost forgot that. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so
And some other
my
fun projects that you have going on.
yeah, so my Instagram's at Ali dot or at Aly Dhanani, just my name. So yeah, it's pretty simple. And then Twitter, I don't really use Twitter too much, but it's Ali basketball, just ALY
Mhm.
basketball. If you want to follow me on there, but just mainly actually my LinkedIn is probably the best place.
Hey,
Just be my
cool.
name.
Hmm.
The best place to connect is on LinkedIn. Like Instagram is casual, but I do a lot of connecting and work on LinkedIn.
Hey,
So yeah, if you want to connect with me, that'd be you're more than welcome to.
all
But
right,
yeah,
my guy. I appreciate you. We're definitely gonna keep up with what you're doing this year, and good luck this season.
thank you. Yeah, you to you as well. Yeah, I appreciate you.